So let's start by thinking now about your relationships and what ideas you might have about them. You probably came in here tonight with some different notions of what relationships mean to you. And where did we get those notions about relationships? Did you learn those things in school, like kind of a relationships 1A, or in high school after social studies you learned about relationships? Is that the case?
No.
Where'd you learn about them? Out in the real world, from your families, probably, from your original families. We probably took a lot of our modeling from our original caregivers, our parents, or the people who raised us. And within that environment, you came up with a lot of notions about what relationships mean to you. Some of those things are things that you want to hang on to because they're good and they propel you forward and they give you a nice feeling and they're the things you live by. Some of those things might be what I might call a little bit of excess baggage, some things that we might want to challenge and see if we might want to substitute some other ideas for the ones we've been walking around with. I don't know, but we'll check a few things out tonight and see where they came from. For instance, just so you think about where you've been and what you think about relationships. Now, I don't want to incite a riot here, so I don't want to upset everybody first off in the evening before you know me too well. But think for a second what you all heard about women. We'll start with women. Women and men both. What did you hear about women? What were our rules? Yes?
Stay home, raise the children, have dinner ready when hubby got home.
Stay home, raise the children, have dinner ready when hubby got home. What else did you hear?
They're nurturing.
They're nurturing. What else did you hear? Yes?
We're not supposed to enjoy sex.
Oh, we're not supposed to enjoy sex. How's that one? Do you like that one? Yeah, we have a lot of notions, the good and the bad of it all. We spend too much money. There's that one. Or we're too emotional. Or we're the nurturers, the caregivers. We have a lot of ideas about who women are. What about men? What did we hear about men? What?
They never cry.
They never cry. What else? What? What? They don't what? They don't eat quiche. Real men don't, at least. We know that much. Real men don't eat quiche. Maybe you're not familiar with that book, but that's a book out. What else?
They bring home the bacon.
They bring home the bacon, the breadwinners. We heard all these sorts of things. Then you heard things about relationships as a separate entity, almost as if it's a being unto itself. What did you hear about relationships? I'll start you off. I'll tell you one that I heard from my mother until I asked her to please give this one up. She sort of used to tell me that no matter what I did with my life, no matter how accomplished I became, I would never actually achieve fulfillment until I was in a one-on-one permanent romantic relationship with one person. That was what I had heard, that I would never be okay till I had one. Did you all hear something else? What did you hear? What did you hear about them? Did you hear this, that the fun ends as soon as you get into one? Like that's when the fun is all over? Don't get into one, or they don't work, they're more trouble than they're worth, or they should be forever. You heard about that one? You heard different kinds of ideas, and we all heard them. We came here tonight with some notions of what relationships mean to us. Let's start even right now by throwing up on our screen some myths. Some myths. Oh, throwing up on our screen. Now, I wouldn't have even got that one, y'all. I'm not going to throw up on our screen. I promise. By putting on our screen. Is that a better wording for you all? That's true. Rhetoric and semantics has a lot to do with it, with the success of the evening. We'll start by putting on our screen some relationship myths, and let's just throw them out right now. Let's just look at them, see where they came from, and see what we might do with them. The first one is the perfect relationship myth. It's got a couple of prongs to it. The first part of it says that there is only one person out there for you. Only one. And you have to seek and find that person. And if you don't find that person, then you're out of luck because there's just one of them. If you're single in the audience tonight, what kind of a chance does that give you for finding one person? You know, with so many people out there, pretty bad chance. But the other part of this is almost more dangerous or more depressing. And it's the end of all of our fairy tales. How do they end? Right, we all know that. Happily ever after. Well, if we have this notion that a good relationship or the perfect relationship must end happily ever after, the first time any kind of rocky territory hits, what do we believe? That it's over, that it's not perfect, that it can't be the relationship that I wanted. And yet we know for sure that relationships which last a lifetime and which make people very happy also have some rocky territory within them. So if we're prepared for that, we throw out that myth, we're better off. We can proceed ahead a little bit more confidently. The second one up there says, make me happy. It goes like this. I'm not okay right now. I'm not quite together, not quite whole, but wait till you see how terrific I'll be as soon as I've got that great relationship I know is going to come my way. Now, it depends on which side of this myth you're living on. If you've decided that the reason that you're whole and you're happy and you're living well is because you're in a relationship, you're probably safe for now, I guess, until that relationship perhaps subsides or goes away. Then we're setting ourselves up. But if you're single again and you say, I'm not quite all right until I get into a relationship, how do you project yourself if you believe you're not quite all right or you're not quite whole? Not too confidently, not in a way which lets people believe that you are a healthy, intact human being, and then how appealing are you? It's kind of a paradox that the thing that is keeping us from finding relationships often is the idea that we don't have one. And it's kind of a paradox. The third one up there, good things happen to good people. Sometimes that one permeates our work site too, where we work. We say, if I'm a good person, if I'm really together, then great things are going to come my way. That's all that I have to do. So that if I'm a good person, a good relationship will enter my life. Again, whichever side of the myth you're living on, there's going to be a little difference in how you view this. If you're in a successful relationship and you believe you got it because you were a good person, that's pretty safe. Let's pretend you're single tonight. What does this say to you? It says you're not a good person or you're not okay, and that's not the truth. It's never the truth. We are all good, whole, intact people with or without our relationships tonight. Wherever it is you are out there, it's all right. The last one up there, I think, is probably the most important one. The very most important one. It definitely colors a lot of what we do. It's also called the myth of the good friend. The myth of the all-knowing partner or the myth of the good friend. And here's how this goes. If you love me, if you really care for me, you'll know exactly what it is I want and give it to me without me ever telling you what it was. You know that one? And is that a myth? Yes, that our partner is a mind reader. That's the myth there. This one is real tempting. It's very, very tempting because initially in a relationship, when we're freshly in love, is anybody here, by the way, freshly in love? Like within 2 weeks to a month or so in love? Oh no, we have two people. 2 people out of all these people in here are in love freshly tonight. Is that within a couple weeks to a month? Okay, then they're going to relate to this. The rest of us jaded people out here, the people who are very jaded, think back to when you were initially in love. And remember that phase you went through where you thought, my partner knows my every need. It's amazing, but before I even ask for something, he or she knows exactly what it is I'm going to say. Remember that? And then there's the converse of this too, the converse of the myth of the good friend. It says, if you love me, if you care for me, you'll know exactly what it is I don't want and not do it to me without me ever telling you what that is either. In reality, we know that initially, it feels as if our partners can read our minds. We also know that that's not true. What's happening when you're initially in love is lovely, and we all look for that feeling. We know also that it's not a realistically founded feeling. It has a lot to do with chemicals and hormones, which are all racing around in your brains. They are, and they're great. They're wonderful feelings, but they tend to kind of color our thinking, and we come up with these ideas like people can read our minds. It's important to use that phase, that nice romantic phase, but to make it work for us by keeping your mouths open and telling people what it is you want while you're also in that lovely phase of feeling good about somebody else. That's a real important one to me, the idea of keeping our mouths open and saying what it is we want and we don't want. Those are some myths. There are many others, lots and lots of other myths, but those are the most common ones we see when we're dealing with people in counseling situations. Instead of these, and instead of many others that we could talk about tonight, I hope to substitute for these myths and for some other ideas we have, a nice healthy dose of reality. And it doesn't mean to eliminate the romance or that lovely feeling that we have when we first enter into relationships. It means that we want to apply romance in a logical, more systematic fashion so we don't end up getting ourselves in trouble in our relationships and having to undo the problems. I've kind of got 4 goals tonight. 4 of them. And I'll mention them to you right now. They would be the same goals I would have if we were together in a counseling situation, like if I were just with you privately. I hope that first of all, through the course of this evening, and it's going to be very fast, I can help you to know a little bit more about who you are and give you some encouragement to project yourself or represent yourself accurately. That's my first goal. To know who you are and then project yourself accurately. To be you. That's another way to say that.